My name's Naya. I've always had some kind of connection with the ocean. I would always go to the beach with my family and friends, spending hours in the water. When I was younger, I would research and focus as much schoolwork as I could on dolphins because they were my favourite animal. I wanted to make this documentary so that I could spread awareness of all of the issues facing our ocean and why it's so important to protect our beautiful blue world. As I moved into high school, I started to develop more of an interest in sharks, spending hours researching them for school and learning about how important they are to the ocean.
An Australian man killed by a shark.
Killed by a shark.
Sharks are one of the most feared species in the ocean. This is partly because of the demonisation they receive in the media. You are actually more likely to be killed by a vending machine or lightning than you are to be killed by a shark, but they're still so feared. Many sharks pose no threat to people, taking the whale shark or the basking shark for example. These sharks are filter feeders and eat mostly plankton. Even sharks such as the grey nurse are peaceful and don't intentionally hurt people. Sharks kill less than 10 humans per year, while humans kill an estimated 100 million sharks in the same amount of time. There are over 500 species of sharks in the ocean, each playing a crucial role to the ecosystem's function. A study published found that shark and ray populations dropped by 71.1% from 1970 to 2018. The scalloped hammerhead shark is an endangered species in Australian waters, with their population estimated to have declined up to 80%. Thresher and silky sharks are 72 to 90% reduced, while dusky shark populations off the Atlantic coast are estimated to have plummeted by 85%. Other apex shark species are also on the decline, being said to have declined by 74 to 92% along the Queensland coast. For a cohesive ecosystem, sharks are crucial. Predators such as the great white or other top food chain sharks eat the species below them. If those predatory sharks were to go extinct, their prey would overpopulate and deplete their food source, inevitably killing themselves. This would continue until we would be left with empty oceans. We know why the decline of shark populations is bad, but what's causing such a disastrous event? One of the major causes of shark population decline is overfishing. This occurs when commercial fishing boats go out into the ocean and take large amounts of sea life. When this happens, it doesn't give the species enough time to repopulate. This causes a diminish in fish populations and increases the likelihood of bycatch. Bycatch is when a non-target species is captured unintentionally. This is a major threat to shark populations because when sharks are caught in large-scale fishing nets or long lines, they often don't survive. This isn't a shark-only issue. Seabirds, turtles, and many other marine animals get caught as bycatch, displaying one of the many problems with commercial fishing. In many countries, predominantly Asia, sharks are caught and killed for their fins. This act is called shark finning. Sharks are fished to have their fins sliced off and sold for products like shark fin soup. Often when a shark has been finned, it is still alive before being thrown into the ocean. Sharks are constant swimmers as they need movement to filter oxygen through their gills. When they are thrown into the ocean with no fins, they have no ability to move and slowly drown.
My name is Solomon Wadani. I'm the Data and Program Manager with CBIN Foundation. CBINs are extremely unique. They're an innovative piece or bit of kit or technology, but basically a CBIN is a device that was designed to collect positively buoyant marine debris. So any floating marine debris in the environment, and thinking specifically about the nearshore environment or marinas and harbours. Quite simply, a CBIN is a mix between a pool skimmer and a rubbish bin. Plastics or litter, land-based litter, is transported into the ocean under various mechanisms. Environmental factors are the most prolific transport mechanism that carries plastics into the ocean. So that's things that we refer to as rain events, wind events, storms, or flash flooding. So these weather and environmental factors carry any land-based litter predominantly into stormwater drains, making their way to the marine environment, unfortunately. So the biggest issue there lies in littering and land-based pollution. On top of that, there is waste collection services or leakage from waste collection services. After the garbage trucks have come through and collected the bins, you'll notice that there is a higher amount of curbside litter on the ground, and by means of environmental factors, it always makes its way into the marine environment. Plastics don't belong in the ocean. So any foreign object in the marine environment is a hindrance to any organisms or habitats in the marine ecosystem. So typically plastics can impact the marine environment or animals in the marine environment by being mistaken as a food source. So I'm sure you would have seen the unfortunate photos of turtles trying to eat plastic bags and the likes. And this unfortunately leads to a process which is called bioaccumulation, whereby marine animals ingest plastics and the plastic particles are carried not only into their bodies but into their predators' bodies and the predators' bodies. And this is the process by which toxins escalate through the food chain. There's a great deal of number of other influences of plastics in the marine environment, like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, for example. The result of that is enormous. There's studies speaking to ocean acidification relating to ocean plastics. A recent study was produced on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch where they found coastal invertebrates living on the larger floating plastic pieces in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So that's bringing a foreign animal away from its typical environment of the near shore or intertidal zone on the coastal environment and sending them out to sea, which is, has problems of its own, obviously. Plastics come in all forms, shapes and sizes. In terms of in the ocean, from what I know, hard and soft plastics and abandoned fishing gear is the most prolific. From my side of things, from the CBIN side of things, what I can speak to is more so to do with metropolitan waterways and the nearshore environment. And in the nearshore environment, what we found in CBINs is microplastics are extremely prolific and frequent in various CBIN catches, predominantly in Sydney where we have the brunt of our operations. But we do notice that microplastics are one of the most abundant plastic types that we collect. On top of that, we also find an array of plastics from broken down polystyrene, plastic bags, construction material. In Sydney Harbour, again, we find fragments from the New Year's Eve fireworks and firework apparatus themselves, as well as things like astroturf and fake grass. The horizon to which we capture plastics is anything that is in the water and floating. But most commonly what we see is broken down bits of plastic, indicating that the litter or the plastics have been in the environment for a long time. And that can be both hard plastics and soft plastics as well.
Just extending onto that, what are microplastics?
It's a great question. Microplastics are any plastic particles or plastic items that are 5 millimeters or less in any direction. So microplastics are formed in a number of ways. Most commonly, microplastics are created as microplastics in the form of pellets or nurdles. Pellets and nurdles are the precursor to any plastic product. They are what is fed into the injection molding machines that create our drink bottles, that create the plastic tubs or the fishing gear. And these are extremely prolific in the environment, unfortunately, whether that's due to spills from shipping containers or other factors, we don't know. But they're there and we catch them frequently, and they come in every different colour. They're sometimes clear, they're sometimes blue, they're sometimes green, and they're extremely hard to find in the sea bin catches themselves. Other microplastics are created from physical weathering, so from plastics being in the environment over time, over a long period of time, and breaking down due to the exposure to the elements. So that's hard or soft plastics, HDPEs or LDPE plastics that are breaking down from exposure to salt and sun and water and becoming a microplastic. And they don't stop breaking down once they become a microplastic, which is important to note. They continue to break down in the environment, and then they become smaller and smaller particles until they're nanoplastics and they're being ingested by things like phytoplankton, which is really, really harmful.
I've known about climate change and its effects on the world since learning about it in primary school, but I had to go and see for myself what rising temperatures are doing to the ocean. Corals are animals that provide habitat for other animals. They are a complex organism comprised of many little polyps that resemble anemones and host tiny algae. This algae, like many plants, goes through photosynthesis and uses the sun's energy to generate food. Climate change, among other environmental disturbances, causes the coral to become stressed and expel the algae. This leads to the coral becoming white and brittle, known as coral bleaching. When this occurs, coral is not always dead and has the ability to recover, but with rising temperatures, coral is regenerating at a much slower rate. An estimated 25% of marine life depends on coral reefs for habitat and food. Fish live in coral reefs and become prey for larger predators. But without the coral for the fish to live, these predators are left with less food, impacting the food chain. The Great Barrier Reef, located off the coast of Queensland, is home to over 400 species of coral, 1,500 species of fish, and 4,000 species of mollusks, such as octopus and cuttlefish. Without these reefs, the marine life population will drop, and we will see less ocean life than ever before. The ocean is incredibly important. It is the foundation for the health of the planet, but issues such as overfishing, climate change, and pollution are all devastating the ecosystem. While reefs are important for marine life, many people rely on them for tourism and protection from weather events. If you want to help to protect the oceans, you can eat less commercially caught fish. This can decrease the public demand for these critically needed animals. We can participate in this practice to keep our oceans healthy and thriving as a means to protect our beautiful blue world.